So you're in mid-meetings about all sorts of world affairs. The flags are blowing in the wind behind you. So let me use that metaphor. Where do you think the wind is blowing regarding the North Koreans with the South Koreans and eventually with President Trump? Where is that going to lead to?
Well, I consider this a risky opportunity. The fact that there will be a summit meeting between the two, because normally you would prepare such a process during a long time, and then a summit would be sort of the end of such a process, and hopefully with a very good result that has been guaranteed through the negotiations. This is a kind of the reverse, but so I think it can be risky, but also a groundbreaking result, of course, and let's hope for the best.
Okay, so let me ask you then to outline the risks and then the opportunity. Why is it worth taking this risk, and what specifically are the risks?
Because remember, North Korea right now is sort of the symbol of a number of things, the geopolitical tensions and everything difficult in this part of the world, but also the threats that come from testing bombs and missiles and using nuclear weapons, and then also historical grievances as well. And all of that into a mixture that makes up a very, very dangerous situation for not only that part of the world, but for the rest of the world as well.
What is the best one can hope for?
Well, I think that nice words that we've heard until now must be turned into deeds. So we must see a proper plan for denuclearization, and we must see that there is hopefully also some kind of bigger plan, I would say, on security arrangements for this part of the world. It will be well prepared, of course, with the talks that will take place this Friday between North and South Korea. So I think that's a good preparation.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, you said denuclearization. Others have used the word disarmament, and there is a very big discussion as to whether the West and the North Koreans are on the same page when it comes to the objectives. So since you have been the conduit between North Korea and the United States for years now, what have they told you? You recently met with the North Korean foreign minister.
I think that the situation is like this. To the North Koreans, this is an ideal situation to open up for talks, because they consider themselves a fully equipped sort of nuclear state. And then they also, of course, feel the pressure from the rest of the world, including the sanctions regime. And that's why they feel that now is the time to enter into discussions with both the South, but also with the US and the rest of the world.
So there are many, including Australia and Japan, but there are many others, including inside the United States, inside the Trump administration, who believes that it's possible that North Korea could be laying a trap, that it could be saying all the right things, but has no intention of actually disarming, and wants to be taken as a nuclear power and have a détente with the West, come up with some kind of containment or deterrence regime, and at the same time have the sanctions removed. Are you worried about that being the case from the North Koreans' perspective?
Well, as I said, I think that this, the test of all of this lies in how willing they are to really do what they have said, and that they said that they wanted to do. So it's all in a plan that must be worked out, and in all its details. And this is where I think the rest of the world also has to engage, and to make sure that we have control regimes and that we can supervise any process from now on. Mm-hmm. So I think this has to be done very carefully, and normally a process or a summit would be the end of such a long process in preparing. But now maybe the summit will come first, and then we will have to do all the work.
Well, it is.
That's why I call it a risky opportunity.
Yes, and it is very, very unusual, all the rhetoric around this issue, and as you say, the summits. you know, when I spoke to you last, it was at the United Nations, the big meeting in September, and you said to me at the time, I don't think that a war of words will de-escalate the crisis, remembering that President Trump really let fly at North Korea from the podium in the building that you're in right now. So I just want to play you these contrasting words from President Trump over the last 7 months.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. There is a bright path available to North Korea when it achieves denuclearization in a complete and verifiable and irreversible way. It will be a great day for them. It will be a great day for the world.
So do you think, in a weird kind of way, that this hyper sort of tension that we all felt over the last several months has led to this? Or what do you think has led to this, at least beginning of a diplomatic opening?
A number of things have led to this situation. The engagement of the Security Council, the decisions by the Security Council, and also, for example, the European Union introducing tougher and tougher sanctions. So that means that today we have the toughest of all sanctions regimes against North Korea. The interest of the rest of the world, the debate that has been taking place, the measures that have been taken by South Korea to stretch out a hand and also realize the risks of if this escalates into the use of nuclear weapons. Nobody wants that. So we have all come to realize that there is no such solution to this problem. So I think, of course, the North Koreans consider themselves in the best of situations where they feel militarily strong, but at the same time they know that they're economically weak and that this cannot last. And they need a solution. And then the political will and leadership by, for example, South Korea, wanting to engage and finding small steps forward to increase confidence and do confidence building, but also having a very practical way forward.
I want to talk about feminism and the way you put women's rights at the heart of Sweden's foreign policy.
Well, I think they have to realize, both men and women, that gender equality is not a women's issue. It is a peace and security issue. If you want a long-lasting peace, then you have to involve half of the population. And I think that we have tried to show how it can be done. We try to, every time in the Security Council, ask the question, where are the women? Are they around the table where peace negotiations are being negotiated or signed? Are they there as peacekeepers? Are they there as decision makers?
You have been somewhat criticized by some people in the past by putting these moral objections to gender inequality at the forefront of your foreign policy. Some have said you jeopardized Sweden's trade or other, bilateral issues. And particularly in 2015, when you criticized Saudi Arabia's gender policy, Riyadh recalled its ambassador. So I wonder whether you think they are on the road to correcting, to self-correction, with the new Crown Prince and his, for instance, lifting the ban on women driving and implementing or about to implement some more female-friendly policies.
We welcome every change that will show that countries around the world see this as a universal human right, that women enjoy the same rights as men. And I think it is important that also small steps are taken to demonstrate that this is the direction, because women will also fight for the rights in Saudi Arabia and in many other countries where they are not as advanced or has come as far as we've done in my home country. But it is not moralism. I really think it is about these very practical tools and instruments that checks on the discrimination against women, that allows them to enjoy the same rights as men, but also make sure that they can have a say, and that also budgetary means goes to women's and girls' needs as they do to men and boys.
Foreign Minister Margot Wallström, thank you so much for joining us from the UN.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All the best.